Mighty companions, welcome to A Course in Miracles on Facebook Live, and that ain't no jive. We're gonna try to remember some thoughts that will give us peace and give us joy and give us love. Would you like to remember some thoughts that give us peace and give us joy and give us love? Would we like another way of thinking that would give us some abundance? Well, welcome to Facebook Live. I'm Earl Purdy. Welcome to A Course in Miracles, and we're going to talk about even more today how we are going to allow ourselves to answer that question, what do I want, and how to get rid of all irrational, unhappy, crazy thought. That's what I consider to be a worthwhile goal, especially since it's our thoughts that's ultimately determining everything that we're experiencing right now. And so let's see here. Make sure I'm going to be able to monitor what's going on here on my phone, so I can see what you all are saying and seeing. All right. Okay. Happy Resurrection Day.
Thank you.
Happy Resurrection Day.
Well.
And remember that you're not a victim of the world that you see. You're not a victim of the world that you see. You're not a victim of the world that you see. You're not a victim of the world that you see.
Not a victim of the world I see. Not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see.
Guess what?
I'm not a victim of the world.
Okay, Temptation.
I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim, no, of the world I see.
You're not a victim of the world you see.
I'm not a victim of my mom. I'm not a victim of my paw. I'm not a victim of events or circumstance at all. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. 'Cause what's happening now is what I done to me.
Including the good stuff.
I'm not a victim of the future, not a victim of the past, not a victim of anything that really doesn't last. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. 'Cause what's happening now is what I done to me.
Including the good stuff.
I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim, no, of the world I see.
All you want. God's peace and joy is all we want. Love's peace and joy is all we want. God's peace and joy is all we want. Love's peace and joy is all we want. Love's peace and joy, that's all we want. So we have to remember what?
I'm not a victim of the North.
I'm not a victim of the South. I'm not a victim of anything except what comes out my mouth. I'm not a victim of the world I see. Cause what's happening now is what I done to me. Including the good stuff.
Come out now. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim,
No.
of the world I see.
See, you are entitled to miracles. 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 Do you know that you are entitled to miracles? Do you know that you are entitled to miracles? You are entitled to miracles. You are entitled to expressions of love.
I'm not a victim
Not a victim
of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. 'Cause what's happening now is what I done to me.
Oh, yeah. And did I say including the good stuff? Okay, because sometimes, I don't know about you, but I have a tendency to kind of omit or forget the things that are going great because I think I'm supposed to be using my time to fix the things that aren't going so great in my perception. Anybody else familiar with that?
Amen.
Yeah. Don't focus in on the people in my life that appreciate me, giving me joy. I totally enjoy being with them. But then focus all my attention on who I think I need to get to be different in order for me to be happy. Hello? Hello? I focus on who I think need to be different in order for me to be happy. Right? I am the divine, and I added the divine. I am the divine remembering coach. The divine repetition teacher. Because after 40 plus years of A Course in Miracles, I'm finally hearing it. And I'm not a slow learner. I'm just committed. Right? Right? Yeah. And people say, you're still studying that? You're still focusing in on that? Yeah. Why? Because it's working in my life. It's allowed me to experience miracles of healing and love beyond anything I could have ever imagined. I've been in scrapes and situations that I didn't have any idea how to handle it, what was going to happen. I was at my wit's end. And I would take this book out, go to a park, and I call it reading myself out of my problems. And so I would read the Course in Miracles until I felt some level of relief. That's how long you read. Like people go, how long did you read? How much did you do? How many times did you do your workbook lesson? Until you feel better. And depending on the situation, that might be all day. Really. You know, it might be 5 minutes, but it might take you a day because of the severity of the misperception that you have. That in order to even begin to let Spirit help you. Do you know that the Course in Miracles says that it's a book on how to let yourself be helped? You have to be, he said, we're such a trip that we have to be taught how to let somebody help us. Wow, it's deep in it. So the guidelines, remember this. Do you know you don't have to believe the ideas? Do you know that you do not have to accept the ideas? Are you aware that you need not welcome the ideas? Are you aware that you might resist actively some of the things I say today from A Course in Miracles? Some of the things from A Course in Miracles may be quite startling. My mighty companion online, I want to welcome you. Thank you for tuning in on a holiday. Resurrection means rebirth. And the Course in Miracles says the second coming of Christ is the return of our common sense. I said, what? The second coming of Christ is the return of you all's common sense. Christ, the Holy Spirit, the Course says, is reason and sanity. That reason and sanity in you. The you that absolutely knows the truth. And so the Course is saying you need to learn how to remember and to hear how that part of your mind operates. So that's why I take this slow. So we're going to, it also says, you're not being asked to analyze the ideas, so I'm not going to analyze the ideas. I'm not going to judge the ideas. I'm going to use the ideas because it says it's the use of the ideas that give the ideas meaning. It said using it gives it meaning. Sitting back judging what I'm saying and analyzing it will not give this meaning. But if you try it consistently, you will see that it works. So we're going to be on page 85 in the text. The reason why I work out of the book is because I want to be especially helpful and supportive to those people who are attempting to read the course and study the course. Because the book can be kind of daunting when you first start to work with it, because it assumes that you don't know nothing that it's saying. And then it explains everything that it's saying. And then it repeats the same thing from many different angles. So that if you don't get it one way, you'll get it another way. The way we've learned is you read something and then you try to fit it into your thought system based on what you've learned in the past to judge whether or not it's true or false. The Course is saying, just for a minute, lay aside the way that you see things. Open yourself up to realizing, like the first paragraph when it says the ideas will show you that the ideas are true. So it says irrational thought is disordered thought. So if you have disordered thought, you have irrational thought. You may not be aware of it, but most people don't know that your Creator actually orders your thinking. The Course says God Himself orders your thought because your thought was created by God. That means if your thought was created by God, if my thinking was created by the Creator, then that would make sense that that's who's ordered my thought. If you created the way I think, then you ordered it. And now that's the way I think. So the Course is telling you, whenever you're feeling guilt, do you know anytime you're having guilt feelings about anything, anytime you're feeling any kind of guilt, which is anger, the Course in Miracles teaches anger and guilt are the exact same thing, that they're not different. Anger is just another form of guilt. And what I realized was that that's true, because if I'll be honest with myself, whenever I'm angry at someone, I'm really trying to guilt trip them into doing whatever it is I'm angry about that I want them to do. So anger is just another form of guilt. So if I feel guilt, then I don't know that love is ordering my thought. If I feel guilt, then what's happening is I'm thinking differently from God. The Course says guilt feelings are always a sign that you don't know this. Know what? That your thought was created by God. Guilt feelings, what else do guilt feelings show you? Guilt feelings show you that you believe that you can think differently from love. Guilt feelings teach you that you can think separately from God. Because according to God, love, which is the Creator, never feels guilty or makes you feel guilty. In other words, there's no guilt in love. If I love you, then I don't see you as guilty, and I'm not putting guilt trip on you. I'm not putting a guilt trip on you. See, the Course in Miracles is teaching me how to tell when I'm giving or receiving love. It's teaching me how to tell when someone's giving me love and not giving me love. So do you think that would mean if somebody was cursing you out and angry at you and trying to make you feel guilty, then that would not be someone expressing love to you right now? Okay, so that means that then there must be a part of you that thinks you can believes you can think differently from God, which is the same as saying, I think I can think differently from love. I think I can think loving thoughts sometimes and fearful, angry thoughts sometimes. I believe I can think apart from God. I think I can think apart from love. I think I can think apart from the truth. I think that there are two choices, innocence and guilt. So the Course is telling me, no, innocence is the only thing that's real. And so when you're feeling any other way other than innocent, then you're believing that you can think differently from the way the Creator thinks, which means you've just been paying attention to your own thoughts that you made up. So whenever you're upset, you're actually listening to yourself, and you're listening to your own thoughts that you made up, and none of the thoughts that are coming from truth, God, Spirit, or the universe. See, just in those first three paragraphs, just those first three sentences, we were told how to tell the difference between when you're getting ready to make a big mistake in the way that you think and when you're not. That, first of all, your thought is only loving thought. Your real thought is only truth thought. It's only loving thought, and your creator created that thought, and that's your real thought. You don't know that. How do you know that? Because whenever you feel guilty, whenever you feel angry, it's a sign you don't know that God, your creator, orders your thought. That your true thought comes from love. Your true thought comes from peace. Whenever you feel guilty, do you know it also means that you think you can think something other than love? So that means I think I can think apart from God. But not only do I think I can think differently from love when it comes to you when I'm upset, not only do I think I can think something other than love when I'm upset, I want to think something other than love when I'm upset. I'll say that again. Not only do I think I can think, I like to use practical situations. I'm in a situation right now with a person and we're having some separation, or I'm upset or they're upset. Okay? I think they've done me wrong. I'm projecting on them. I think they need to be different. I should have done something different in order for me to be happy. Spirit tells me, well, actually, if you're thinking about that person, it's coming from God. If you're thinking about that person is coming from God, then first of all, you will not be feeling guilt or anger. You know, they're guilty. It's a lot of thinking apart from God going on out there. I just walked down the aisle and everybody was feeling guilty.
There was a practical example.
That was a practical example. So, and I love this. So, do you know that when you have a disordered thought, and the disordered thought is a thought that's not coming from love or peace? Every disordered thought, you can tell it's a disordered thought because it's attended by guilt. Picture guilt as a nurse taking care of your disordered thoughts. And your disordered thoughts, thoughts that don't give you peace, thoughts that don't give you joy, the Court says you maintain those disordered thoughts by guilt. And that's how you continue thought that gives you no peace, is you attend your thoughts with guilt. You think things and then you feel guilt about it. Then you think something else and then you feel guilt about it. Then you feel something else, then you feel guilt about it. That's attending a thought with guilt. I don't have enough money, I feel guilt about it. My relationships don't work, I feel guilt about it. I'm judging my friends and relatives, I feel guilty about it. What am I doing? I'm attending disordered thoughts with guilt. What is a disordered thought? It's a thought that's not like God's, which is love. Or I like to say, it's a thought, because the Course in Miracles is my path, I go, it's a thought that's unlike what the Course teaches. See, that's how I keep it practical, so that I can separate my ego's thoughts from Spirit's thoughts. I go, okay, I've decided the Course in Miracles is my spiritual path, therefore I believe that my Creator communicates to me through this material, through this way. I'm going to make the decision that this is the kind of thinking that I'm trying to learn how to do. So therefore, I'm going to believe it. And if I'm feeling guilty, then I know that I'm telling myself something that it did not come from God, that did not come from the truth, that did not come from what's true. Every time you feel guilty or angry or depressed or have a grievance, please don't think you're correct about anything when you're upset. Your perception is distorted when you're upset. Do you know when you're upset, your perception is distorted? When you're upset, your perception is distorted. How do you know that? Because if your perception was not disordered, then you would be feeling good. Isn't that novel?
I know.
Yeah. So, who is it that can never get rid of their guilt? Well, guilt is inescapable. Well, by who? By those who believe that they are the ones that order their own thoughts. So, I love this. The Course in Miracles says, you're going to keep on feeling guilty as long as you believe you have to obey your thoughts.
Wow.
Isn't that deep?
Yeah.
There it is right there. It says, guilt is inescapable by those who believe they order their own thoughts and must therefore obey their own thoughts' dictates. My thoughts tell me I should feel guilty about drinking a soft drink, and I've said that I'm only going to drink juice. So my own thought of guilt about that, I think I need to obey it. And so I make myself feel guilty about drinking a soft drink. But I'm feeling guilty because I'm obeying my thoughts and ordering my thoughts. I'm the one that thought it was bad to drink it, and then I'm the one that beats myself up with guilt because I did. Have you ever done that?
Yeah.
Did something, and it was your choice, and then right after, you dog yourself out with guilt because you did it. Well, that's what it just says. Well, you'll never get rid of your guilt. You'll never get rid of your guilt if you believe you got to keep on obeying the thought that you're guilty. Duh. Makes sense. That's why the Course in Miracles is such a challenge, is because it uses reason and logic, but it mixes reason and logic with love. Okay, so what is the next thing? Well, if you believe that your guilt and your upset is coming from your own thoughts, then that's going to make you feel responsible for your mistakes without recognizing, by accepting the responsibility for your thoughts, you're really acting irresponsibly. It's irresponsible to want to listen to you. What? Yeah, you being irresponsible. You are supposed to be listening to the thoughts of your higher self, the thoughts of love, the thoughts of God. That's who's ordering your thought, is your creator, your higher power. You coming up with your own way of thinking, your own beliefs, your own conditioning, your own ideas, and you're beating yourself up about your own thoughts because you taught yourself to feel guilty. And so you're being irresponsible by making yourself responsible for what you're thinking. Do you know if you really love yourself, you wouldn't want any of your thoughts? Can we get agreement? Yeah, if you really loved yourself, you would want the thoughts of that which created you in love. You would want that part of yourself. You know, that's why I don't use the word God a whole lot, is because I have to deal with all of the past learnings and programmings that people attach to that word. And they don't realize they're not reacting to the word God, they're reacting to the meaning. In other words, you're reacting to your own disordered thoughts about God. How do you know your thoughts about God are not true? Because they're attended with guilt and anger and resentment. Which means that I'm listening to my thoughts and obeying my thoughts that say I shouldn't want to hear the word God. So I'm responding to my own thoughts. That's what the book is saying. So you're being irresponsible because you should be responding to the thoughts of God, the thoughts of your true self, the thoughts of your loving self, which the book teaches you the difference between the two. Now, what is your sole responsibility as a miracle worker? The Course calls you a miracle worker because if you think correctly in this world, it's a miracle. That's why it's called the Course in Miracles. It's a miracle if we love each other and have compassion with each other and don't attack or make each other feel guilty or be kind or caring, you know, or somebody makes me mad and then I don't hold a grievance. That's a miracle. Right. So it's called a Course in Right Perception. The Course in Miracles defines a miracle as a correct perception. So you can substitute correct perception everywhere you see the word miracle, and the Course will make even more sense to you. Because if you have a correct perception, it's a miracle. People miss the humor of the Course. You know, man, if y'all see things correctly, it's a freaking miracle. If you forgive, it's a miracle. And at that point, Jesus of the Course says, I want some funk. If the sole responsibility, what is your sole responsibility? Your sole responsibility is to accept the atonement for yourself. What does that mean? It means your only responsibility is to accept this truth for yourself. Accept the Course for yourself. Accept the love for yourself. Your only responsibility as a student of A Course in Miracles or any truth teaching is for you to accept it for yourself. If I say this is my path, then I have to accept the Course in Miracles for myself. It's not about getting my mama to accept the Course in Miracles, my children to accept the Course in Miracles, my mate to accept the Course in Miracles, my boss to accept the Course in Miracles, no political party to accept the Course in Miracles. That is not to get everybody else to do this or to believe this is not your responsibility. Your only responsibility, if you say this is what you want to learn, is for you to accept it or believe it for yourself. It says the only responsibility. Didn't say among others. So if this book says, for instance, if this book says, if it says, every time I feel guilty, I'm just listening to my own thoughts, then I need to accept that for myself. I shouldn't be worried about whether you all understand that or you all accept that or you all agree with it. Next time I feel guilty, I need to tell myself, I'm not listening to God right now. I feel guilty, which means I'm not listening to the loving Spirit. I'm not listening to the Holy Spirit. How do I know I'm not listening to God's guidance? Because I feel guilty. Whenever I feel guilty, I'm not listening to the truth. Whenever you feel guilty, you are not listening to the truth. When you feel guilty, what? What? Startling. Hard to believe. No, the truth is, whenever you feel guilty, you are listening to the thoughts that you ordered and you made up about yourself, and you're being irresponsible because you're not allowing yourself to think the thoughts that were created by the higher power in your right mind. So you're irresponsible when you're mad, you're irresponsible when you're depressed, you're irresponsible when you're feeling guilty, and you're irresponsible when you're feeling angry. What does that mean? It means that you are listening to something you are making up in your own mind that you're telling yourself that is not coming from God. Because if you're listening to the truth, no matter what the situation is that you're dealing with right now, if you were listening to the truth, you would feel more peace about it. No matter what the situation is, no matter how dire it is, no matter how frightening you think it is, if you were telling yourself the truth that comes from God, from the course, from your spiritual path, if you were actually telling yourself that, instead of whatever you're telling yourself, you would feel more peaceful. If you don't feel more peaceful, you have irrational, disordered thought that you're making up based on your conditioning and your programming, and you're condemning yourself for laws that you broke, that you made up, that don't have nothing to do with God. Let's say that I decided that picking up this little piece of paper was a sin, and that I needed to be punished every time I picked up a piece of paper, especially Playboy. Still overcoming my Playboy guilt. But now I know, feeling guilty about it, I wasn't listening to God. I was acting irresponsibly. Okay, I made that up, right? So every time I pick up a piece of paper, what will I do? I'll feel guilty, right? And that's what he's saying. Why? Because I believe I can order my thoughts, and I made up the thought that this was bad. And then I believe I have to obey the dictates of my thought, which says I should feel guilty about it. So I made up the sin, the crime, and then I also made up the punishment that I have to go through for it. So I'm being irresponsible because I'm not using the thoughts of love that the Course in Miracles taught me, which would say, Earl, even if you made it up that it was sinful and something bad to pick up a piece of paper, I want you to see that as a call for love. I want you to see that as a call for help, and I want you to see that as a call for healing. That's God's thought, that you're calling for love and you're calling for help and you're calling for healing. So if you would use that thought, you would be more responsible, because now you're using the thought that was ordered by God instead of the thought you made up, which is whatever you think the sinful bad thing you've done. So I make myself feel guilty about smoking. That's me ordering that thought. And then I turn around and punish myself for it because I also have the thought that I deserve to be punished for that, and I'm guilty in some way for doing that. So I'm ordering up the crime, and I'm also giving myself, sentencing myself for the crime that I made up.
And doing the time.
And during the time, and you're gonna do the time because you're gonna feel guilty as long as you keep thinking that way. So that's doing your time. Some people have been doing time for 20 years, feeling guilty and angry about something going all the way back to their childhood. So is everybody with me on this? Okay, you following me? Is it making any sense? Not too much sense. All right, let's on the count of three. Let's all go to sleep. 1, 2, 3. The Course in Miracles says, read me slowly, read me slowly, read me slowly, read me slowly. Now, if your sole responsibility is to accept the atonement, which is the undoing of your errors for yourself, and I assure you that it is, then the responsibility for what's atoned for cannot be yours. So, in other words, the dilemma cannot be resolved except by accepting the solution. I love it. Whatever you're going through, I don't know how to tell you this, but it's not going to be resolved until you accept the answer, until you accept the solution. That's when it's going to be resolved. You would be responsible for the effects of all your wrong thinking if it couldn't be undone. So the fact that your wrong thinking can be undone means that you don't have to worry about it. It's no big deal because it can be fixed, it can be corrected, it can be undone. So stop tripping. Stop beating yourself up. Whatever the mistake is you're making, it can be fixed. It can be undone. Not only can the mistake be undone, but all the effects of the mistake can be undone. Do you know that there is not a mistake that you can make that cannot be undone by higher power? There is not an error you can make that cannot be healed and fixed and corrected. Now, if you believe that, you're thinking like God and you're thinking with God. If you don't believe that, you're still insisting on listening to your beliefs, and therefore you have disordered thought and you're being an irresponsible son or gun. So putting yourself down all the time, you're just being irresponsible, because there's another way you could think. That other way of thinking is available and is totally loving. You're choosing to believe what you want to believe instead, which is making you angry and you're feeling guilty. That's how you know what you're thinking isn't coming from God. How do I know what I'm thinking is not coming from love? It's because of how I feel. How you feel will tell you which voice you're listening to. How you feel will tell you whether or not you're listening to your ego, which is the false voice, or if you're listening to spirit, which is the loving, true voice. The one right use of judgment are your feelings. Your feelings will always take you back to your beliefs. Forget what you're telling yourself intellectually. How you feel is a reflection of what you believe. You can say you like me, but as soon as I come anywhere near you, you're repelled and repulsed. Then it's a possibility that you don't feel about me the way you say you do, because your feelings don't validate it. Yeah, I love you, but man, I'm scared to talk to you about some things, Jason. See, my feelings tell me that I got my own thoughts about Jason. You see what it's saying? Because if I felt love and peace toward Jason, then I'm using God's thoughts about Jason, my real thoughts about Jason. But I'm not feeling that. I'm feeling fearful. I'm feeling that. So that lets me know immediately I'm listening to thoughts that I'm making up, a story I'm telling myself about him. That I have disordered thought, I'm being irresponsible, and I'm calling for love, and I'm calling for peace. So what is my sole responsibility? My sole responsibility, because of the way I'm feeling about him, is to accept what this is saying for myself. And immediately go, I'm not feeling that good about Jason, so that means I'm listening to thoughts that I made up about Jason, which means I'm not listening to the truth about Jason. I'm not listening to the love about Jason. I'm listening to what I'm telling myself and my interpretation of Jason. And because I'm ordering my own thoughts and listening to my own thoughts and not using the thoughts of love that the Course teaches me, then that makes me feel responsible and I feel guilty. And I'm actually needing to just accept the truth for myself right now. I just need to accept it. Not that I say I need to get Jason to accept the truth or to understand, or even that I need to even go up to him and apologize. What I needed to do was accept the truth about myself, accept the truth in that moment. And what is the truth that we're going to find out that we're accepting most of the time? That you're wrong. One day you're going to be so glad to be wrong, it's going to be the first thing that pops out of your mouth. I hope I'm wrong. I so hope I'm wrong about you. I really hope I'm wrong about you. I'm feeling very separate from you. I feel very angry with you. I feel very misperceived by you. And I hope I'm wrong about all of that. I hope I'm wrong about everything that I'm telling myself that keeps me feeling bad. In any area of my life, I hope I'm wrong about that. So the Course then says, don't worry about it, because you would be responsible if it couldn't be undone. So what is the purpose of the atonement? Well, the court says the atonement is the undoing of your fear and your guilt, the undoing of your mistakes. He says that's what the atonement is. It's the undoing of your mistakes. So the book is saying, well, would you be willing to accept the undoing of your mistakes? I want to accept the atonement for myself means I'm willing to accept the undoing of my errors, the undoing of my lack, the undoing of my sickness, the undoing of my guilt. I'm willing to accept the undoing of my unhappiness, the undoing of my loneliness, the undoing of my jealousy, the undoing of my insecurity, my undoing of my distrust, the undoing of my suspicion. I am willing to accept what the Course in Miracles is teaching me about how unconditionally loved I am. He says, so what's going to happen is that your past is going to be saved. I'm going to save your past. What? I'm going to save your past, but I'm going to do it in what kind of form? I'm going to save your past in a purified form. What? I'm going to purify your past. And we're going to save your past in a purified form. In other words, we're going to save everything about your past that was loving. We're going to save everything about your past that was joyful, happy, healing. That's a purified past. A purified past is a past that has no fear or guilt in it. So if you're looking at your past and you're feeling guilty about your past and you feel depressed about your past and you're feeling sad about your past, then are you using disordered thought? Yes. So that means you are doing what again? You're listening to your story and reacting to your story. That's what it means every single time. It means you're listening to your story again, and then you're punishing yourself for the story that you're giving yourself. So if we want to save your past, we've got to save your past in a purified form. And a purified form is a past free of guilt and regret and grievances. Are you with me? Okay, what's the next sentence? Well, if you accept the remedy for disordered thought, if you accept the remedy for your crazy thought, would you like to have a remedy for your insane, crazy, fearful, insecure, guilty, jealous, sick thoughts? Yes. Okay. And it's a remedy whose efficacy and effectiveness is beyond doubt. So the Course says stuff like, would you like to have a remedy that you just can't even doubt? Would you like to have a love you can't even doubt? Would you like to have, okay. So if you accept the remedy, how can its symptoms remain? So how can you tell when you've really done what the truth asks you to do? Then everything that you think you're upset about would be solved. Because if you accept the remedy, the symptoms can't remain. Like right now, I'm going through a defense against the truth that takes the form of it looking like, I'm trying to give myself a chest cold. So I don't make every little thing go on in my body now be it. Because it's not. You know the difference. The point that I'm making is, let's say there was a cold remedy that would get rid of that. All right, how can I tell when I've taken the right remedy? The cold would be gone. So how do you know if you're thinking correctly and have the right remedy in your, let's say, your financial situation? Any financial problems or lack would be gone. How can you tell when you've accepted the real remedy to right, loving relationships? Then you would just have right, loving relationships and you wouldn't think that you don't have. In other words, if you really are applying the answer, you will no longer have the symptoms of the problem. Right? So the Course in Miracles says the continuing decision. So what is the reason for continuing to have guilt feelings? What is it that keeps people always continuing to have feelings of guilt? Well, it's coming from a decision. All guilt and all anger comes from a decision. All guilt, all anger, all sickness, all lack, all attack comes from a decision. It comes from a decision. Where's my upset with my partner coming from? It's not coming from your partner. Your upset with your partner is coming from some decision you've made about your partner. That upset you're having on your job, it's coming from a decision. Everything that you're going through is coming from a decision. And then the Course says, well, do you want to know what that decision is? See, it gives you the remedy. It says, well, the decision is you want to remain separated. So as long as you want to remain separate, you'll continue to have guilt feelings. As long as I want to think I'm different from you and separate from you, I'll still go through guilt and anger and sickness and lack sometimes. As long as I believe you all are separate from me, and the Course in Miracles defines separate. One of its definitions of separate is very interesting. You ought to try it whenever you see the word separate, say this word, different. He says separate means different. I'm separate from you means I'm different from you. So if I say so as long as I think I'm different from you, I'll continue to feel guilty. And I'll continue to get angry. Let me give you an example. Like if you watch movies, have you seen gangsters all hang out with each other and be talking about who they robbed and they don't feel no guilt about it? If anything, they like joking about how they took, why? Because they don't think they're different. And so since they don't think they're different, they don't feel guilty around each other. If you like football and I like football, and so I think we're the same, I'm going to feel really cool talking to you about football. You're going to feel real cool talking to me about football. But somebody who hates football, who thinks they like baseball, then I'm not going to feel as much peace talking to them in terms of their reaction. Now, I can make myself feel more guilty or self-conscious, And so that's why, because I think we're different. So when you say you're separate from God, do you know that means you're saying you're different from God? Then when I heard that, I went, ooh, but there is a part of me that feels different from God. Don't you dare say I'm the same as God. That's your problem, is that you are the same as God, and God keeps telling you that. You are only love. You are powerful. You are not a victim. You are a creator. You are free. You are connected with everything. You are never alone. You are eternal. You never die. You're more than a body. You are like God. But that doesn't mean you are God. The Course uses the analogy of parents give birth to their children, but children don't give birth to their parents. So God created me. I did not create God, but I still got the same characteristics of God, like your children have your characteristics. Do you see what the Course is saying? If I came from a Cocker Spaniel, then I should look like a Cocker Spaniel and have all the traits of a Cocker Spaniel. Right? And this book is saying the same thing. You all do not know that you are God, that you have all the created power of the Creator, and that you are 100% of the time creating your experience, 100% of the time, 24 hours a day. Your experience is coming from your thoughts and your consciousness. There's nothing that's happening to you in your life that's not coming from you. There's nothing that's happening that's not coming from you. There's nothing you're experiencing that's not coming from you, because you're listening to your thoughts. You're listening to your thoughts that you've made up based on your past experiences since you were born and everything you've learned. Those are your thoughts, and they're producing your experience right now. You have a lot of thoughts you're not aware of. Do you know you have a lot of thoughts that you're not aware of? You have a ton of thoughts and beliefs that you don't know that you have. You have a ton of beliefs that you don't know that you have. Those beliefs are still creating situations and circumstances in your life that you don't know where those situations and circumstances are coming from. And you're wondering, why did that happen to me? It's coming from the thoughts that you have ordered, that you have, that you are making up, that you have forgotten or don't remember, or are in denial that you have those thoughts. Everything we're seeing in the world right now that has us upset is taking place in our minds. He says you'll never control the world until you realize it's in your mind. You want to have some control in your world? Say, my world is in my mind. My world is in my mind. My world is in my mind. The world is in my mind. The world I perceive is in my mind. What I'm looking at is in my mind. Everything that I'm feeling and experiencing is in my mind. So the Course in Miracles says, do you feel guilty though? Do you feel angry? Okay, that's a disordered thought. That means you're not thinking thoughts of truth. You're not thinking thoughts of God. You're thinking thoughts that you've ordered, and then you're making yourself feel the way you feel about it. That's what's going on. So then it goes on to say, well, then what is making me feel guilty? Well, he says, well, You got to understand that your decision that you're different and separate from everybody is what's going to keep your guilt going. As long as you think you're different from anything you see, you're going to continue to feel guilt and continue to go through anger. It may be hard for you to believe this, but when you look at a person who attacks and you go, my God, I'm just like that. There's a part of me that attacks. Then I'm getting rid of my guilt and I'm helping them get rid of theirs. All I have to do is say I'm like whatever it is I'm looking at, and it takes away the attack. So what do you do? What do you do? Then he says, well, we said this before, that, being separate is going to keep your guilt feelings going. And we didn't really emphasize the results of the destructive results of that decision to stay separated. I just want to tell y'all a little bit about the destructive results of your desire to see yourself as different from everybody around you. Any decision that your mind makes, do you know that any decision that your mind makes is going to have an effect, and it's going to have an effect on two things. Any decision that you make is going to have an effect on two things. Any decision you make is going to have an effect on your behavior. So your behavior is coming from the choices you're making. Your behavior is coming from the decisions you're making. Your behavior is coming from the choices you're making. Your behavior is coming from the decisions you're making. The way you're always behaving is coming from the decisions you're making. And also, your decision will also affect your experience and your behavior. So my decisions, my choices, they affect the experiences that I have. Can we agree on that? That your decisions and your choices, they have an effect on your behavior and your experience. So let's work back. Okay, how are you behaving and what kind of experience are you having in your life right now? How are you behaving right now? And what kind of experience are you having right now? Well, of course, the miracle says, well, that must be a what? Decision of your mind. So which means I am seeing myself as separate. I'm just like my cat. I'm just like my kid. I'm just like my husband. I'm just like my wife. I'm just like you. I'm just like them. What does that mean? Well, I'm just like them because I'm going through the exact same process that they're going through. What's that? If I think my own thoughts separate from God, I feel guilty. If they think their own thoughts separate from God, then they feel guilty. Every decision they make is affecting their behavior and experience, and every decision I make is affecting my behavior and experience. We are just alike. That's what it means. We're just alike in the sense that we all go through the same processes that are just alike. That's how we're just alike. My thoughts are creating my experience. Your thoughts are creating your experience. You can come up with your own thinking. When you do, you feel guilty and angry, and you don't feel like you're enough, and you don't love yourself. That just means you're listening to yourself. You're just listening to some old story you made up that has nothing to do with spirit at all, God or truth at all. Because, well, everybody else is doing that who feels any kind of... In other words, stop seeing yourself as different. You're not any different from anybody else. But since you wanted to be different from everybody else, you look like you're different from everybody else. And so the court says, okay, you wanted to be different and special. So I'm going to use your specialness, your uniqueness, and your difference to teach the truth in your own unique way. So your individual personality is going to be perfect for the way God and truth and love is going to come through you, and it's going to come through you in a way that it doesn't come through anybody else. So therefore, because you wanted to be different, you wanted to be special, you are. Okay, so I'm not going to get mad at you because you did that, because I don't get mad. I'm God. Okay, so you're not going to be punished. You're going to be lovingly corrected. So what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to take your uniqueness and your specialness and your desire to be separate and different, and that's going to be your unique way of demonstrating sanity, love, peace, oneness, and God. And there's no competition because there's nobody else exactly like you. So you also have taken care of the competition thing. And the court says, not only that, I'm ordering for you off the menu of miracles, right? So I'm also going to send the people to you that need you just the way you are and don't need you to change any kind of way to fulfill everything that they would need to receive from you. Because the way you are and the way you think is best for them and their level of understanding, so they will feel like they're the most blessed being in the world just because they're even around you. And I will send that person to you the once you say, I'm ready to learn. That's what the Course in Miracles says. People are like, why do you read this book? Because I'm telling you stuff that this book says. And that's some cool stuff. And you see how much sense it makes. You see that from just what we covered this time I've been talking. You know that nothing I've said is hard to understand. It's just that we need to remember. Need to remember what? That if I feel guilty, I have a continuing decision to be separated, which means I'm continuing to think I'm different from everybody else. The next thing I need to understand is every decision that I make is going to affect my behavior. And every decision I make is going to affect my experience. And then the Course says a major universal law, which is what? What you want, you expect. Whatever you want, you expect. That's deep. So as soon as you tell me what you would want of me, you're really telling me what you expect of me. I want you to give me roses, I expect roses. I want you to give me peace, I expect peace. So whatever you want is what you expect. I love that. And this is not delusional. Whatever you want, you're going to expect it. So the answer, so answering the question, what do you want, is the most important question you could answer. Because whatever you want in life, that's what you expect in life to give you. So that means whatever you expect in life to give you or a relationship to give you is really what you want. So if you expect a relationship to give you disappointment, you want disappointment. If you want a relationship to give you joy and be a source or a channel for joy and peace, then that's what you expect out of that relationship. So if I want peace with you, I'm expecting peace with you. I want love with you. I'm expecting love. Whatever I want, I expect. Wow. What you want, you expect. So what do you expect is answering the question, what do you want? If you expect people to fool you or deceive you or lie to you, you want people to fool you and deceive you and lie to you. Because you get a chance to be right. You get a chance for your thoughts to seem like they're true. See, I thought I couldn't trust anybody, and then I got all these untrustworthy people. I'm right. It's putting me through hell, but I'm right. You see what I mean? Whatever you expect is what you want. So what does that mean? The Course says, well, your mind does make your future. Your mind makes, the Course defines the future as the not yet. The Course defines the future as the not yet. So whenever you say future, say not yet. I want it in the not yet. I'm going to get love from you in the not yet. You ever had that happen on the first date? Not yet. 90 days.
And that's my expectation.
That's right. And that's what I expect. That's right. That's what I expect, right? That's why I always go, I want it now. I try to put everything in the now. But then you want that piece now. Because whatever I want, I expect when. However I wanted it. Now. So the Course in Miracles says, now, your mind does make your not yet. And it will turn it back to full creation any minute if the mind accepts the atonement first. So you will start to use your mind in a totally creative way if you will accept the atonement, which is the undoing of your way of thinking, of your wrong way of thinking. So at the point that you are no longer thinking in a way that's not loving and peaceful, then the creative, I love that, then the full power of creation returns. See, the universe don't want you creating nothing out of anything but love. So anytime you're feeling anything or expressing anything other than love, do you know what's going to happen? It's just built into the system to protect itself. Anything that is not truly loving is guaranteed not to last. That's the way the universe is set up. If it's not loving, then it has to be temporary. There's no way you can make anything permanent but what's based in love. That's the way the system is set up. So if you are feeling guilty, you can't feel guilty forever because it's not love. And anything that's not love can't be permanent. If you think you're experiencing any form of lack, there's no way you're going to stay in lack permanently because love is abundance. So there's no way you can keep lack going forever. You're mad right now and depressed? Sorry. There's no way you can be depressed forever because depression and anger isn't rooted in love. And anything that is not rooted in love, by definition, cannot last. Why do you think nothing lasts here? Think about that. Ponder that for a minute. That's a good thing to ponder. Then it says, and your mind will also return to full creation the instant it has accepted the atonement. So what does accepting the atonement mean? It means having given up your disordered thought that's coming from fear and anger and guilt and separation, the proper ordering of thought becomes quite apparent. The ones you give up the wrong way of thinking, he said the right way of thinking just becomes obvious and apparent. Wow. So I'm going to stop here. I think that was worthwhile to listen to over and over again. What y'all think? I think that made sense. Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm going to do a quick review of what I've just talked about. So stick around. And if you'd like to make a financial expression of appreciation, I would really appreciate that. And you can do it by going to my website, Earl Purdy, www.earlpurdy.com, Purdy. You can use Zelle, Venmo, Cash App, and PayPal. And you just need my email address, which is earlpurdy@earlpurdy.com. earlpurdy@earlpurdy.com. Pass this around. And when you put anything in it, and I see something in it. All right, just imagine me having prosperity and abundance. I do the same thing for you. If you want to really get down on a one-on-one, I'm continuing to evolve and grow just like you are. So even if you've had a session with me in the past, that doesn't mean it would be the same as having a session with me today. So those of you who are ready to get some one-on-one support and help to get past some blocks, you're ready to get past me using the Course in Miracles and every other new thought thing I've learned in the last 40 plus years, then have a clarity session with me. I mentor, counsel, and coach. So have a clarity session, come to my website, read about it in detail. You can self-book an appointment with me right from the website. Also, I'm an astrologer and numerologist, soul purpose, higher consciousness, wake up to who you really are. And that continues to evolve also. And you can also book a session with me in that regard, if you like. On Thursdays at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, I do hardcore Course in Miracles on Facebook Live, the Earl Purdy page on Facebook, and also post all my videos on YouTube and on YouTube as well. So if you go to YouTube, you can still see all my classes at no charge. Then on Sundays at 1 p.m. Mountain Time, I do a Course in Miracles in front of a really alive audience. There's no disordered thought in this room. Some of y'all feel guilty, so you're thinking your own thoughts about that, right? Right? Yeah. Anytime I'm not feeling good about myself, I'm listening to my own thoughts. I'm listening to the thoughts I made up. I'm listening to the thoughts I made up. When I feel sad, I'm listening to the thoughts I made up. I'm listening to the thoughts I made up. When I'm mad at someone and feeling guilty, I'm making up my thoughts. I'm making up my thoughts. I'm listening to the thoughts that I made up. Whenever you feel guilty, you listen to the thoughts. You're listening to the thoughts. You're listening to the thoughts that you made up. Not thoughts of God, not thoughts of love, not thoughts that come from the truth. There's no way you're listening to the truth and feeling guilty, angry, and afraid. Don't ever tell yourself, you're listening to the right answer, and all you feel is more fear, more resistance, and more No, sorry. You're not ever listening to the voice of God, and you feel more fear. You're listening to your interpretation of something. God might have given you the answer, but then you listen to your interpretation of that. And then you responded to your interpretation. No answer that comes from God will ever ask you to make a sacrifice, the Course teaches. That love would never ask you to make a sacrifice. Nobody that loves you would say, sacrifice what you really want for me. Put me before everything, your happiness. Nobody that loves you would ever say that to you. This book teaches you how to tell the difference. And at first it can be challenging because you realize 99% of the people around you are just like you. And that'll be a really deep thought when that hits. Because you were priding yourself in thinking you're different. And then when the ones you don't see yourself as different, do you know the ones you don't see yourself as separate, the world becomes a much friendlier, more loving place. That's the weird part about it. Soon as you don't make yourself different, all of a sudden, there can be no peace among the different. It's peace among the same. Why do you think people get into their tribes? Because within that tribe, they feel like they're what? The same. So when you say you're separate from me, you're saying you're different from me. And in saying you're different from me, that's a lie. The Course says, and you know that's a lie, so you feel guilty. The Course says, every time you tell yourself you're alone, you're lying, so you feel guilty, because you always feel guilty when you're lying. So every time a person says, I'm all alone, they're making themselves feel guilty, because they know they are lying. You're never alone, and you know you're never alone. There's a part of you that knows you are always supported, that you always have help, that you never have to go through anything, that you never have to be alone. There's a part of you knows that there's not a single thing that you're experiencing that was not something you asked for, because it's what you expect. It was what you wanted. And so now you're experiencing it. That might freak you out because you go, well, I didn't know I wanted that. Well, that's what we call awakening. That's all awakening means. It means you're woke. You're aware of what you're doing. You're aware of your surroundings. Because what happens when you asleep? When you asleep and your eyes are closed, you make up a whole world in your mind. And then you react to all that stuff that's going on in your mind. And yet the reality that you wake up to, the bed that you're sleeping in, the room that you're sleeping in, it's still there. But while you're dreaming, you have absolutely no awareness of it. What that picture that you're seeing in the dark in your mind becomes exactly what you think is happening when you're having a dream. So when you start to be on a spiritual path, the only thing that's happening is that somebody is gently waking you up. So do you want a relationship that wakes you up? Do you want friendships that wake you up? Or do you want friendships and relationships that put you to sleep? Okay. The ones that put you to sleep are the ones that you keep having anger, guilt, grievances, and conflict in. Those are the relationships you're using to make yourself unconscious and to feel guilt and pain. The relationships that you're using to remind yourself that this person could actually remind you that when you're having guilt feelings that it means you're not listening to the truth. Could you imagine that? You trying to feel guilty and your partner or friend go, hey, no, sorry about that. You telling yourself something that's not true at all because you're feeling guilty. And if you're feeling guilty, it means you're listening to some story you're telling yourself, and you're not listening to the voice for God right now. So you need to just meditate a little bit longer. You need to breathe a little bit more until you let go of the guilt feelings, because at the point you let go of the guilt feelings, that means you're being responsible, because now you're thinking the thoughts that God has given you. You're being irresponsible while you're putting yourself down. And that's just your call for love. That's just your call for my compassion. And guess what? I'm going to give you this love that you're calling for right now. Come here and give me a hug. I love you. I appreciate you. You're important to me. Because that's what you're doing. You're calling for love. I expect it. I want it. So I expect it. So I need to give what I want to receive. And it's so much fun to be around people who can receive your love, who don't fight it, resist it, distrust it. And they go, oh yeah. Oh yeah. Come on with it. I trust you. I feel safe with you because I feel safe. And all my thoughts are ordered by God. And God's thoughts say, love is the way I walk in gratitude. I'm entitled to miracles. I am free. I'm never alone. I am forgiven.
Yes.
Yeah. See, I'm not ordering my thoughts anymore. I'm going to the restaurant of God and say, order for me, please. I get up in the morning and go, order this day for me, please. Got it? Got it?
Got it.
So Thursday, 7 o'clock Mountain Time, Hardcore Course in Miracles on the Earl Purdy page on Facebook. Okay. And if you want to be a part of an advanced mind training Course in Miracles class, whatever it is I'm going to put together, then email me at earlpurdy@earlpurdy.com and let me know. Because I'm going to let the people know who let me know they want to do it. Those are going to be the only people I let know. Because I want to go deeper with serious and sincere Course in Miracles students so that I can share even more of my 40 years of working with this. And so I'm excited about that. I'm excited about you. So take a breath. I'm just going to take a couple of minutes to hit the main point. If you have disordered thought, that means you have irrational thought, which means you don't realize that God orders the way you should think. God orders the way you should think. God tells you the way to think. Love 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 orders your thoughts. Your thought was created by love. When you feel guilty, what does it mean? It means that you don't know that God orders your thoughts. So you don't have to feel guilty about your thoughts because, in a sense, your thoughts are not your thoughts. Your thoughts are God's thoughts. God's thoughts are your thoughts. The thoughts of love are your thoughts. So when you feel guilty, it means you're listening to some thoughts that are not based in the truth. When you feel guilty or angry or sad or afraid, it means you're telling yourself something that you've made up. And because you think you can think differently from God and differently from love, guess what? You can tell when you're having a disordered thought because a disordered thought is attended by guilt. You don't have to obey your thoughts. You don't have to obey your thoughts. You do not 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 have to obey your thoughts. You don't have to obey your thoughts. Listen to this. Listen to me. Listen to me. You do not have to. You do not have to. You don't have to obey your thoughts. You do not have to obey your thoughts. You do not have to obey your thoughts. You do not have to obey your thoughts. Any thought that makes you feel guilty or angry or separate, you know that's a disordered thought. A disordered thought is a thought that you have made of the story you are telling yourself. The story you are telling yourself. How can you tell when you listen to the story you told yourself? How can you tell when you listen to the story that's the fake story? It will always give you feelings of guilt, and anger, fear, sickness, lack, attack. This dilemma cannot be resolved except through the solution of undoing. Undoing is another term for atonement. Undoing what? Undoing all of my disordered thoughts of guilt and fear and sickness and lack. We're going to save your past in purified form only. We're only going to remember the loving thoughts. We're only going to keep the loving thoughts from the past. We're only going to keep the loving thoughts. We're only going to keep the loving thoughts, loving acts from your past. What you want, you expect. what you want. You expect what you want. You expect what you want. You expect what you want. What you want. You expect. What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? What you want, you expect. What you want, you expect. What you want, you expect. So what do you expect? What do you expect from your friends? From your friends? What do you expect from your friends? What do you expect from your partners? From your partners? What do you expect from your partners? What do you expect from your family? From your family? From your co-workers? What do you expect from the world? What you want is what you expect. What you want is what you expect. So the question that must be answered is, what do you want? You are not different. You're not separate. You are loved. You are loved and you are lovable. Mighty companions, thank you so much for helping me in my resurrection day. I vow to be less irresponsible today. I'm going to try to not obey the dictates of the thoughts that I've made up that make me feel afraid or upset. And how can you tell when you're thinking incorrectly, when you're not letting Spirit give you the correct perception? How can you tell? By your feelings. So use your feelings. You might find out at first that you're wrong most of the time, right? Because if I'm unhappy most of the time, then it means I'm seeing something wrong most of the time. Don't be glad. Be glad that you're wrong. If you think you can't have love and happiness and joy and loving relationships and a satisfying function in the world, be glad you're wrong about everything that you are fearful about or unhappy about. Be glad. Be glad. And be responsible now. And let that which loves you start ordering your thinking for you. Let God order your thinking for you. And that thinking is in the course for those that are interested in it. Course in Miracles, folk. May the course be with you. Share this video, please, and may the course be with you. Listen to it 4 times. That's half it.
Don't feel guilty about it.
I'm defining twerking my own way. Yeah.